Sahana vavatu, Sahanau bhunaktu, Sahaviryankaravavahai, Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Dayakaram Dayakaram Dantam Dharma Pravartakam Pranamami Dayanandam Madacharya Varam Param. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. So the two invocatory prayers also we will chant. Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnanapradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattvabodho Bhidiyate Sarva Vedānta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satgurum Pranatosmyaham. So these are important to chant at the beginning. So it's nice to be on time for the sessions because you invoke, again, the prayers. Some people come later after the prayers. Prayers are, 1 minute, prayers are very, very important because you invoke again the Guru Parampara's grace and also Ishvara's grace. That's why Acharyas have written just before the texts. So last week we were seeing a value, going back to refreshing the minds for all the qualifications. Vivekaḥ. So Nitya Vastu Vivekaḥ. Viveka on different levels we saw also, which means a discriminative analysis in life. Some kind of inquiry into what one is doing, how one is doing. And here it is defined as looking into what is permanent in life and what is impermanent. And we know very clearly, we have seen what is impermanent, what is coming and going, what rises in time, lasts for a length of time, and it is dissolved in time. That is called impermanent. It is never there all the time in 3 periods of time. So when we do this Vivekaḥ for some time, again, everything's not overnight. Very rarely you get that aha moment overnight. Everything, and this word is used by Patanjali as well, abhyasa, which means repeated, consistent, regular efforts. And this is required in spiritual pursuit. If you can imagine in worldly pursuits, how much of that is required. Spiritually, you need to triple that, even more. That type of, conviction should be there. So when Viveka is done, then I said, I left you all with a sentence, and I hope you had time to contemplate on that. Vairagya, we come to Vairagya. What is Vairagya? seeing the absence of connection between what one does and what one seeks, seeing the absence of connection between what you're doing and what you really want. And when that becomes clear, dispassion is a very natural thing to possess. You don't have to become dispassionate. You don't have to gain dispassion. There is nothing to be done for dispassionate mind, because you automatically become, because you see the gap. And what is that gap? You should see after Vivekaha, what you should realize, what I really want in life is unconditional happiness. What is the meaning of unconditional happiness? I want to be happy at all times, at all places, with all people. That is unconditional. Who does not want that in life? No human being will say, I don't want that. That is what we all want, actually. And that is called unconditional happiness. And one should see, I want that unconditional happiness, but what am I doing in life to gain that? I am going for all things which are conditioned. I'm going for all things in life which are limited. And I see this again and again, and I keep going after limited for limitless. Will it ever work? We saw, even though the mind has desires, it keeps going. We have to see again and again. And it is one of the, again, practices for a spiritual aspirant. You have to keep seeing the defects, the limitations of going after limited all the time. So vairagya now is defined, and we're going to enter into the next value, natural developed from Vivekaha. In Tattvabodha, he defines it, virāgaḥ kaha, ihasvargabhogeṣu icchārāhityam. And we saw in Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ, tadvairāgyaṁ jihāsā darśanaśravaṇādibhiḥ dehādibrahmaparyante hyanitye bhogavastuni. So again, Adi Shankaracharya always takes it one step more. We'll see in the next verse also, he takes vairagya one step more. What is he saying here? The desire to give up all transient enjoyments gained through sense perceptions. So the desire to give up, meaning it is a natural desire, you're not interested anymore. And not just in this world, I had said in the next hereafter also, vairagya is giving up even the need to go somewhere where there is a very nice place where we'll enjoy gardens and, girls and dance and all of that. Every religion talks about nice heaven going places, but that's also impermanent. So all of this will be impermanent. We have seen that, and this is what Adi Shankaracharya says. What is the meaning of vairagya? Vigataha ragaha yasmat saha is vairagya. The person who is a vairagi is the, from whom all attachments and these passions, these longings have disappeared, they have dissipated, they have gone away. So people fear, this word detachment. We never talk about detachment. In many books, you will see vairagya is translated as detachment. I've always said you can never be detached from anything, right? We are attached, we are connected. We can never detach ourselves from things. We live with each other, we're in close proximity, and we depend on each other physically. So detachment is not the right understanding. And it is not running away. When you say detachment, immediately that idea comes, I should run away from life. I should run away from people. I should not be near objects. That is not real vairagyam. It is not running away. It is not also, at the funeral pyre, sometimes smashana vairagyam. This is what Adi Shankara says. When we see loved one pass away, we get the sudden, feeling, oh, life is more than this. And we give big discourses. Everybody is giving big discourses. But that is also not vairagyam. We saw that also. So vairagyam is actually the freedom from any emotional dependence on externals. You are not emotionally dependent, or you lessen your emotional dependence. You don't have any emotional hooks or addictions to pleasures of the senses. If coffee without milk is the only thing you get, and you love coffee with milk, what does the Vairagi say? Okay, fine, it's okay, I will take coffee without milk. It's that type of, it's not that you avoid taking things. You're okay if the thing is there, you're okay if it is not there. So the longing, raga, is no longer there. The wanting to have something is no longer there. And here, Adi Shankaracharya says in Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ, dehādibrahmaparyante. And Tattvabodha also says, swarga, bhogadishu, in the swarga, in the Brahma Loka, all the pleasures of this world and also pleasures of the future worlds, all of that you find temporary. It is not, worth going after. It is not worth spending your time, energy, and resources to go after that. That is called dispassion. So dispassion is having redirecting your passion, actually. That's another way of saying it. I redirect my passion because I cannot become apathetic, indifference. That's another wrong understanding of it. It is not apathy, like, oh, this world is so, so boring, everything. It is not like that. It is, I leave the karma phalam. I'm not interested in what is perishable, which are the results of action. And rahityam means I'm devoid of icchā, I'm devoid of this addiction, this passion towards anything. Here, Adi Shankaracharya adds in Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ another word, jihāsā. Jihāsā is a very beautiful Sanskrit word, means the desire to give up, meaning you will be ready to lose anything. As I said, you're ready to lose anything at any time. So vairagya is born when you see what is impermanent and what is permanent in life. When it's impermanent, you will look for the permanent. And where do you discover the permanent? The Shastra reveals the permanent. Attachments are born. Deep longing is born when I seek also external validation. That's another thing where, we get trapped. The attachments to the external world is when I seek external validation. I look for objects for people to appreciate me. If I drive this type of car, people will look at me, people will appreciate me. So attachment, again, begins with, this type of need that we have. I know in all over the world, it's interesting. Even the area of the city where you live becomes a big thing. I live in this part of the city, or I live in this. If and people who are in that city, they will recognize, oh, that's the posh area. This is not so posh, this area. This is more urban area. So again, the attachment grows for external validation. If I live in this area, if I have certain house, if it's a detached, nice property with the garden and it has a swimming pool, again, I will feel good. So you become more attached to gaining things, objects of the senses, not just for your pleasure. Now it becomes for external validation. So firstly, you're doing it for your pleasure. Now you're looking for external validation. Of course, that is also for pleasure. So objects of the world become means to be recognized as a very successful person. And we know everybody, does that as well. I want to look successful. I want to be successful. So the two culprits, again, we come back to the poor two culprits, the enemies, Krishna says, of man's mind, raga and dvesha. When objects become important to us, then raga is developed. Attachment to them is developed. And when anything comes as an obstacle to what is important to me in my life, dvesha, dislike, is developed. Nothing should come in between and what I like. When it comes in between, dvesha. And this attachment and aversion, longing and aversion, are the forces that keep me bound to the ocean of becoming, which is samsara. They keep me doing, keep me in the track of doing something for what I like, avoiding something for what I dislike. And they are the two enemies. Bhagavan says, watch out. And we'll see how to manage them in, further in the text. Watch out, he says in Bhagavad Gita, These are the two that really disturb your mind. You can all do this exercise this week yourself. See, binding likes and dislikes, when they're there in your mind, you get a lot of thoughts, a lot of disturbed thoughts as well. So Adi Shankaracharya, in the 22nd verse, he says, Virajya Vishaya Vrata Dosha Drishtya Muhur Muhu Swalakshe Niyata Vasta Manasa Shama Uchate. So in the second line, he brings in the next value. We are only going to take the first line for this value. So he says here, the tranquility of mind, which is shama, the next value, it only comes after you gain dispassion. Dispassion, how do you gain it? By again and again seeing the defects of objects gained through the senses. So he says, look at the limitations, he says here, and we'll see what the limitations are of objects. And it is an exercise, a meditation that one can do. It's not a very happy, positive one, but spiritual life is not happy and positive at the beginning. It is I always say, poison at the beginning, nectar at the end. Worldly life looks very, very nectarous at the beginning, nectar-like. It's so beautiful. Everything is so beautiful. I enjoy everything. And it ends up as poison in the end. What are we interested in? We are interested in nectar at the end. So at the beginning, it seems very, very depressing. I have to look at what is, all the defects of everything, including relationships, everything. But it is a value, it is a qualification. And Bhagavan in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, he also brings it up. Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshanu darshanam. You have to keep seeing. And he says, even anudarshanam, he uses a verb there in Sanskrit. Don't just look at it on Sundays, 1 hour on Sundays. He says, anudarshanam, look at it on a day-to-day basis all the time. Anu means repetitively. So Bhagavan is very, very clear there. So here, what is vairagya? Here he says, practical attitude you have to develop towards things and people. That is called objectivity. And how do we gain this? As I said, you have to see too much indulgence in the senses will weaken your will. Too much sense indulgence weakens the mind and body. When somebody is always in sense pursuits, you don't find much energy. In fact, that tapas that I said, you conserve energy when you do this tapas. The next few values are like this. It's actually tapas values. You conserve that shakti for a greater pursuit, higher pursuit. So there's constant, what the practice here of vairagya is constant alert living on our part. I have to be very careful what is going in my ears, what is going in my mouth, what is going through my eyes, what am I sensing, what am I smelling? The senses, Chinmayananda Swami said something very beautifully. He said that, you should wear a sign around your neck saying, no entrance without permission. Because this is a walking temple of divinity. You're a walking, talking temple of the divine. And if you're throwing junk in, then you're actually not respecting who is there, the resident, the inner resident. You're not showing respect. So I'm very careful. There's an alertness. This is the first level of, vairagya. How do I develop vairagya? I see this. There is a verse in the Bhagavad Gita which talks about the eightfold fall of the mind. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho bijayate. If you keep thinking of objects, dhyayato vishayan pumsaha, if you keep on dwelling on objects, what happens? Attachment is born towards the object. Krishna says this very beautifully, the eightfold fall of the mind. Attachment is born to the object. Then from that attachment, a longing to possess that object is born. From attachment comes longing to possess. And from that longing to possess, if kamat krodho bijayate, if You don't possess it. If you possess it, then you're fine, right? But if you don't possess it, Krishna says, what happens? Anger develops. Anger develops towards anything that obstructs your desire from manifestation. So anger is actually suppressed desire. Any type of, any type of anger we feel in us, it is not the world that is responsible. You remember this in moments of anger, if you're able, it is really interesting. Then we cannot blame the world and people. If anger is not within us, it is not going to come out. It is like vomit. If vomit is not in the stomach, it is not going to come out, right? It is in your stomach and it's triggered by something. So it is not, anger is suppressed desire in human beings, and it is released when somebody triggers or some situation triggers. So here, Bhagavan says, this in the Bhagavad Gita, very important to nip it in the bud to get this dispassion. Because if you don't use your intellect early on, he goes on to say, kamat krodho bijayate, krodat bhavati sammohaha, your mind will get deluded if you get into anger all the time. If you become an angry person, your mind will get deluded. So sammohat smriti vibramaha. From this deluded mind, you will lose your memory capacity. All the good things you learned in Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ and Tattvabodha session will go out of the brain when the moment of anger, when the mind gets diluted. Krodat sammohaha smriti vibramaha smriti bramshat buddhi nashaha, intellect is totally destroyed. And buddhi nashat pranashyati. When the intellect goes for a human being, you are no longer a human being. You are gone case. So you are lost. So he talks about this. Be very careful. As soon as you see some longing for an object, think, is it going to give me that happiness I really seek? We have to bring our mind in, our intellect in. Is it going to give me full fulfillment? Am I really, do I really need that thing in my life? One has to bring in the thinking capacity. And if I don't think, again, Bhagavad Gita becomes an excellent text with this. Krishna also says, Bahyan sparshan bahikritva. In the 5th chapter, he says, keep the objects of the world external. What does he mean by like that? It means, we know that objects of the world are already external. Why does he have to tell us, keep it external? Because they're all in our head. When we let objects in our head, it is very difficult with the longing. If we attach emotion to an object, you cannot get it out of your head. It is very, very difficult. So before it gets to the point of that, where you cannot get that particular object out of your head, be careful. No admission without permission. That is the best sign to wear wherever you go. This is called mastery over the sense powers, mastery over the sense organs. You should be like, again in the Gita, he says a beautiful verse, Yada samharate chayam kurmonganiva sarvashaha. Like a tortoise, a turtle, which is able to withdraw its limbs at will. It can go under the shell at will whenever it wants, with the wisdom. When it knows it is not good for me, what? It gets in the survival mode, it goes in the... That is how I should have power over my senses, to be able to withdraw the senses at any moment, at any time. So as I said, this Tattvabodha understanding and Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ verses are very complementary. Here he brings in extra point to practice to get dispassion is to observe the defects of sense objects. And how often, how long do I have to observe the defects? He says, muhur muhuhu, very nice word in Sanskrit. Muhuhu, muhuhu, actually. Muhuhu, muhuhu, because muhur muhuhu, which means again and again and again and again. Not just one day a week or 1 week in a year. Again and again, which practice makes you not a slave of your senses. You become master of your senses. So we have a few defects I will share with you. You can add your own defects. Maybe that's a good exercise. This week, look for the defects of going after sense pursuit, going after sense objects. First one, satishayatvam. Everything is subject to improvement. Anything you take in this world. You look at technology, how much it's being improved on a day-to-day basis. How we started with this small, if you look at mobile phones, started with a small mobile phone, then it became a smartphone. Then we were all enamored with this new smartphone. We were pressing on this apps, a new thing, apps. Then suddenly iPhone 1, 2, 3. Where have we got now? 14, I saw. Amazing. 14 iPhones developed. Satishayatvam. Cars also develop. Everything has been developing. Any objects is subject to improvement. So that is one thing you should recognize. When you want, your mind goes towards the latest iPhone, think, is this going to not improve in future? Yeah, maybe next week, the next one is going to be released and I'm going to get bored with the 14th model, right? I'm going to go after the next. Do I really need it? Ask. You have to practice this. The next defect, atriptikaratvam. It is never fully satisfying. Your happiness, in that moment you fulfill the desire. We are not denying, we love it. When you get an object of your desire, what you love is the seeking self is gone. There is no seeking you. The moment you fulfill a desire, the seeker and the sought become one. And that is Advaita. That is what you really love, the non-dual self. So you are actually after yourself, but you think the object is giving you that happiness. It is not. Possessing the object is not giving you the happiness. It is the seeker you is resolved for the time being. And when the seeker me is resolved, Atma shines, the self shines, the self that is happiness. So it's very, very interesting to see that I attribute that self-happiness to objects outside. Atriptikaratvam, that is a defect that we have to see. No object can give me lasting happiness. It is not fully satisfying because I go after something else. Then sapekshitvam. Sapekshitvam means that it is always dependent. Any gain is dependent on a loss, right? Wherever there's a gain, there is a equal and opposite loss. For getting the car of your dreams, what do you have to do? Work so hard, save up. You're financially at a loss. So for any gain, there will always be a loss in terms of energy, time, money. You look at any other type of loss, but you will see for anything you gained, it is not so easy to gain objects either. Okay. And it is bandhakatvam. Bandhakatvam means any object has the ability to bind you. It has the ability to make you addicted to it. It has the ability to take you over. And as I said, with any addiction, it's like that. It is not that I drink beer, I drink wine, I drink alcohol. Alcohol starts drinking me. Alcohol starts taking me over. So any alcoholic or any drug addict, you see that the drugs take over the human being. It's not you are in control of the intoxicant anymore. It is in control of you. So bandhakatvam, if you repeat and repeat, taking something of pleasure again and again, you get addicted. Very dangerous and so painful to get out of. We know, rehab, all of this, how much pain people have to go through to get out. Gambling also becomes an addiction. I mean, it's amazing. People get addicted to just gambling away money and they have to go to rehab for coming out of gambling. So many different types of addictions, not just drug addiction, but any addiction is born only when I develop the habit. If I nip it in the bud, don't develop the habit, I cannot get into addiction. Again, requires alert living on my part. So bandhakatvam becomes a very important defect to keep seeing with sense objects. The next defect is dukkha mishritvam. Dukkha mishritvam means anything that gives you pleasure has inbuilt pain in it. Bhagavan says this in the chapter, in a 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, very beautifully. Yahi samsparshaja bhogaḥ dukkhayonaya evate adyantavantah kaunteya nateshu ramate buddhaha. Anything you come into contact with in the world, it has a seed of sorrow already in it. It has a beginning, Adi, and it has an Anta. O Arjuna, the wise people do not revel in the objects of the senses. So anything be careful. See again for yourselves, because life is the greatest teacher. So I always encourage people who come to my classes, not to just maintain this as academic study. I want you to take it back with you in the week and look at things and look for yourself. That's why I send the points to ponder as well. Because Shastra should bless you in your life to see what life is really about. So you see for yourself what the life teaches, because everything that gives you pleasure has the potential to give you pain. The pain may not be invoked by the object. It is not always the pain is there, but we can see even in relationships. I always use that as number one example. 1 minute you're so much in love with the person is, blindly in love. You don't see any of their defects, you don't see any of their faults. They can do anything and you will say, I love you. That moment is like that. People experience this type of love. And what happens after you live with the person for a week, a month? After that, what happens? That's it. Divorce papers. So that same object, including people, it had so much potential to give you that pleasure. And now it has what? Become object of pain. Has the object changed? It is not the object that's changed. It is my vision of the object that's changed. It's my expectation of the object that has shifted. I expected that object to be a source of, I superimposed. We'll see that as well. It's called Shobana Adhyasa. Can you see how beautifully our rishis have examined life? Amazing. Whenever I talk, I feel amazed by these rishis. They say, you project on the world, you expect of the world something it cannot give you in return, and you get disappointed. It is not the world's fault. It is not people's fault. It is my own projection. When I recognize that, actually, that will be one of the greatest freedoms in life. And that freedom is called objectivity. Objectivity means observing what the mind does. Don't allow this projective power to take over your thinking. When you look at an object, be careful. Immediately judgments made. Oh, it's so lovely. It's so wonderful. It's nice to expect, it's nice to experience and to appreciate beautiful things and everything. But don't get carried away with things. The problem is that we get carried away with things. Everything has its pluses, it has its minuses. World is built like that. Remember, the thing that looks plus, plus, plus can become a source of minus, minus, minus for you very quickly. That is called transference as well in psychology, right? You transfer your emotions onto the object. So vairagya actually is the non-demanding mind. It's a very beautiful way to see the mind. Your mind becomes non-demanding. You don't ask anything to be different from the way it is. You understand objects have this much use alone. This is all they can give me. They cannot give me the full satisfaction that I want. And with this vairagya that we gain, the next qualification comes into the picture. So he says here in Tattvabodha, śamādisādhanasampattiḥ ka, śamo dama uparamastitikṣā, śraddhā samādhānaṁ ca iti. Tattvabodha talks about this sixfold qualifications. Shama, dama, uparama, titikṣā, śraddhā, samādhānaṁ. These are the six wealth of the mind, actually. So these are Viveka and Vairagya, the first two qualification, bring in understanding on the level of the intellect. But now you have to make that understanding yours. You have to possess that understanding in the level of the mind. So intellectually it's understood, but mentally it should be assimilated. So your emotions should assimilate it. The whole being should assimilate what is being said. So shama and samadhi means the shama and the sixfold qualifications. Mental wealth comes into the picture. What is shama? Very briefly, I'm going to give you the six, and then I'm going to unfold each one in more depth. Shama means mental mastery over the ways of thinking. So it is very much connected. They're all very much connected with vairagya and helpful practices to pursue. Dama means mastery over your organs of action and your sense organs. So shama means mental mastery, and dama is mastery over your sensory organs and organs of action. So even my organs of action, some people sit and they cannot be still. I always see, that their leg is going up and down and then they're fidgeting, and that is not mastery over your, your organs of action. I should be able to sit still and, like that. That takes long time. If I can do that, 48 minutes, actually, in Yoga Shastra, the time is given. If you can sit still, holding a position without movement for 48 minutes, you have asana siddhi. If you have power over the seating posture. So see if you can do 48 minutes. It's very tough. It sounds easy. It's not so easy without moving anything. So dhamma means mastery over your organs of action, sensory organs also. Uparatihi, the next one. There's a few meanings for uparatihi, but generally it means quietude, withdrawal. You can see how these mental, qualifications are going more deep, right? They're going deeper, deeper. You feel more and more relaxed as you do that. Withdrawal, quietude. Titiksha, the next one. Titiksha is a very, very important qualification. Endurance. It literally means endurance, forbearance. I'm able to take pairs of opposites in life. Usually, I only want one side. I don't want the other side of the coin. We want the positive side. If there's good, there's evil. If there's beauty, there's ugliness. Everything in our life is pairs of opposites. Is there anything we know without the opposite? We cannot know goodness without the opposite, right? We cannot know beauty without the opposite. We cannot know anything without its opposite. What should that prove to us? That life is it has two sides. Life is it is not one-sided coin. It has two sides. And I have to be able to take both sides. And that is called titiksha. Then Shraddha comes into the picture, another very, very important qualification, which Krishna mentions in the Gita, throughout the Gita. It is a trust pending discovery. See, many times you see the translation of Shraddha as faith. Faith doesn't do justice to the Sanskrit word Shraddha. It is a trust, trust pending discovery, a commitment pending discovery. You be with it for a length of time until you discover for yourself. So very, that is Swami Dayananda's definition of Shraddha, very beautiful definition. And finally, the sixth one, mental wealth, is samādhānaṁ. You can imagine if you practice the five above, then samādhānaṁ will be a natural consequence, which means focusing power, concentration capacity. You're able to put your mind wherever you want it. And here, in this particular context, you're able to put your mind into spiritual practices such as shravanam, mananam, nididhyasanam for a length of time without getting bored, without getting, distracted. It's easy to get distracted and bored. So the six inner wealth, which really are they give you self-integrated personality. These six are for self-management, management of the mind. The first one, Shama, very beautifully, here Adi Shankaracharya says in Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ, Swalakshe niyatavasta manasa shama uchyate. He gives a very interesting definition, which is adding again to the Tattvabodha definition, which is manonigrahaḥ. Here, Adi Shankaracharya says it is the calmness of mind that you gain, where you're able to rest, your mind abidingly rests in the goal, swalakshe, in the goal of whatever you want. So here you have harmony of your mind. Again, I bring into the two culprits because these are the ones that disturb the mind, the impulses stemming from your raga and dvesha. We have to see that again and again. They are the main things that disturb the mind, keep us looking for everything external. And, the emotion, they make our emotions also very turbulent. Because I always am living with what I like and what I dislike, what I like, what I dislike. You can, just imagine living your life constantly like this. You will be swinging from you emotionally. If things that you like happen, then you'll feel happy. Things you dislike happen, you'll feel unhappy. The swing of emotions from pairs of opposites is what keeps us mind disturbed. So shamaḥ means you look into the unhealthy patterns of thinking that you have. It's processing your reactions in life. So reactions happen. We know that. Reaction means what? It's a happening. You don't have free will involved in reaction. Anger is a reaction. Any kind of thing that you don't have free will is reaction. If I tell you to get angry now for 30 seconds, can you get angry? Can anybody get angry? No. Nobody can get angry because it is not backed by your free will. So you should feel very compassionate with yourself. Anger is a reaction. Reactions are happenings, but a reactive mind can never be a calm mind. So even though reaction is happening, I don't see a reactive mind as being productive for my pursuit. In any field, again, of life, you see, reactions in life will destroy relationships, they will destroy your workplace, they will destroy your home life. When we're constantly reactive, we destroy many things in our life and then we regret. So we first react, destroy, regret, right? There's three, we get into that. So shama means before you do that, be aware of your reactions. Don't internalize everything in life. That's another thing. Too much subjectivity will give you suffering. Everything I take, this one thinking of this of me, this one did this for me. Somebody does something and it will always come back to me, right? So it always come back to what did I do? Why is this happening to me? People may have 100 million other things on their mind. Does everybody need to be thinking about me all the time? I don't think so. Everybody's thinking of themselves. Everybody's thinking of their families. They're thinking of other things. So internalizing others' behaviors also is a problem. People may have their own limitations, people may have their own behavioral problems. Just because somebody is suddenly blown up, why should I internalize it and cry about it? See, I have to become a bit tough in spiritual life. I should have like Swamiji used to say, Teflon, be non-stick. If you're not non-stick, you let everything in, you're putting junk where it's not needed. If somebody shouts at you, maybe they've had a bad day, right? And somebody comes back, suppose somebody in your house comes back, they've had a bad day at the office, and you just say one small thing, suddenly they erupt with anger because something else has happened. It's not you. But what will the subjective person say? Start crying in the corner. You hurt me. What did you say? You said this, you said that. And maybe for days it will go on like that. That is called internalization of other people's issues. But what will the objective person say? Hey, I didn't do anything. That's your problem. I mean, you don't have to tell them, okay, by the way, you think this. So that will create more anger. You don't have to trigger that. You just keep this understanding to yourself. It's not my problem. It's your problem. You've got, this small thing doesn't warrant such a reaction in you. Why should I cry about it and smile my day? That is called objectivity, right? Subjective person will be crying all day. Objective person will say, inside, it is your problem. You take care of it, and then you actually help that other person to grow because you become non-stick. That energy has nowhere to go. When you take in other people's reactions, what happens is that you're perpetuating that energy and you're making it worse sometimes. So you have to grow. Shamaḥ means grow from reaction to action. You see, reaction, not being non-reactive, does not mean sitting and not doing. That's another wrong understanding we may have. It's not just sitting and not doing. You act but don't react. Action may need to be taken, but it is rationally done. It is not done emotionally. Somebody at this place where I'm speaking asked me yesterday, How do you know, emotions aren't correct when you act out of emotion? Again, I ask you to look at yourself. If you act out of emotions, how many times has the emotion guided you in the right direction? I would say very few times. Very few times, very strong emotions guide us in the right direction. That is why the intellect, when it kicks in, there's a constant battle within all minds between emotion and intellect, emotion and intellect. And many times emotion takes over and we make emotional decisions, which sometimes really not very healthy for us. What the śamaḥ practices is to watch the emotion, to manage the emotion, but take the rational decision. Because decision means rational mind. Decision, proper decision means intellect. Actually, this is in the Shastra. So śamaḥ means that if, to reduce the reactiveness, you have to act with your intellect. Don't let the life become a burden for you. A light mind is a comfortable mind. A light mind is a mind that can absorb. A person who has a light mind without too much stuff and too much hurt, these days in this, this is by the side, but it's interesting. This new culture, woke culture, right? Everybody is getting hurt all over the place. You can't say anything these days. You say one little word, no, this gender, that gender, that, even how many genders there are. I'm so confused, transgender, female gender, this gender, that gender. And then if you say something against one gender, the other one gets offended. So, it is offense all over the place, this new type of culture. Then nobody can say anything, nobody can speak, we lose the ability to laugh at ourselves. That is the biggest loss, I feel. The ability to laugh at yourself. It's so wonderful to be able to see, oh, I'm like this, and laugh at it. It's funny. Why get upset? When you internalize, you get upset by it. So this modern training, and the children become very intolerant with things. We don't even know how to talk to our children anymore because we might offend. They may go back. Teachers, I know some teachers I spoke to, they're having a lot of issues at school because they go back and tell their parents, she said something like this, and they say, oh, you're, some ism, you're racist, or this ist, or that ist, something. So this is a huge problem. We are encouraging society heavy-minded thinking, and to be fully free, we need light mind. We need to laugh at each other. We need to laugh with each other. We need to laugh at ourselves as well. Then it's very beautiful. In those days, there was a program, I don't know, in England, very famous, called Mind Your Language, and it's very funny. We found it funny. There used to be Pakistani, Indian, and different cultures. And, they used to make fun of the accents, fun of the culture. And we all found it very funny. These days, I think it's banned because it's, too much, people will get too offended. So that's what I mean. The society has changed. This taking offense to everything is not productive in spiritual life. Let's put it that way. We have to learn to be light with our minds, light with ourselves. And then Arjuna, going back to our Tattvabodha, Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, he tells Krishna as well. If you're all thinking the same thing, Arjuna was thinking it. Chanchalam himanak Krishna pramati balavadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram. This mind is so restless. It is turbulent. It is strong. It is obstinate. Oh, Krishna. It appears to me more difficult to control than the wind itself. Very, very beautiful verse, actually, and something that, these two verses from chapter 6, you have a look, 34 and 35, Bhagwan's answer is also beautiful. Total compassion he shows. He doesn't tell Arjuna, oh, just be quiet. Mind, don't say all these things to me. Do what I say with the mind. You manage your mind. He says very compassionately in the next verse, as an answer to Arjuna, I know, Arjuna, I know the mind is difficult. I know it's turbulent, Of course, he has created it. I know everything about it, but nothing is impossible. You can do it. He says two words, he gives two keys to manage the mind, to manage the patterns of thinking, manage internalization, manage projection. So we have two: internalization, projection. These two get the mind into disturbances. Two techniques he gives whole of mankind, not just Arjuna. Very simple techniques. Abhyasa, repeated, consistent practice. That is the key. Very easy, we think. No, repeated, not dropping the practice, not feeling, oh, I don't feel like, I'll have a day off practicing Shama on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, day off. I will lose my temper on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, Shama Dhamma. No, daily, all the time, no weekends off, no time off. This abhyasa, repeated and consistent effort. And the next one, he says, object vairagyena chagrihyate. Here, vairagya becomes a very important word. Vairagya means here objectivity with yourself. You are objective to yourself, meaning self-condemning you avoid. In anything you do here, we're talking about a lot of self-practices, self-introspection. But if you condemn yourself, oh, I got angry, then you spend the whole day crying. Why did I get angry? I just heard about Shama and Dama, and I heard these qualifications, but I lost my temper with my wife 10 minutes after the class. Then whole day you're feeling guilty. Wrong. Vairagyena means objectivity. You lose your temper, it's okay. Get up and pick yourself up. And next time you leave the place if you feel anger come up. So you practice these things. So we are not going to suddenly develop these qualities. So Vairagyena, very important, non-self-condemningly, non-self-loathingly, you have to see your mind as an instrument that you have to fix. That's all. Like a car you take to the garage to get fixed. The mind is also an instrument you have to fix. It is called antahkarana, inner instrument, which means you are not the instrument. If you identify with your instrument, you're in trouble. If you see it as something separate from you, okay, my mind has this problem, I'll get it fixed. Just very naturally, without saying, oh my God, my mind is like this, my mind is like that. Spending hours in that, wallowing in the mind, get it fixed and do it objectively, vairagyena. So these are the techniques, two techniques that Bhagavan gives. There's a little bit more to discuss about this value. We will see that next week. And I will again ask for any questions during the week. You can write and I will answer them. This week we don't have any questions, but you can focus on the points to ponder. When I get back to my place, I will send the points to ponder. And it's very important to develop these values, and important for your day-to-day living also. If you find that you are able to develop to a relative measure over some time these particular values, you'll find your home life improve, your work life improve, your relationships improve. You'll definitely see there's a lot of space between the reactive view and now you become active view. So I wish you all a very wonderful week ahead with Shama and Vairagya, and we will meet again next week. Hari Om. We'll finish with closing prayers. Om. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaः, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om. Namaste. Hari Om.